From the Ear to There Travel Studio, this is the Ear to There Disney Podcast.
The Ear to There Podcast, it's time to start the show. Be sure to hold on tight, here we go. Exploring all the different Disney destinations. Ear to There, it's time to start the fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There Disney Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Gramlich. I am also the owner and the founder of Ear to There Travel, which is a Disney-specialized travel agency. I say this so often that it kind of sounds insincere, I hope. I hope it doesn't sound insincere, but it's kind of like my intro every show anyway. Hopefully you know I'm being sincere. And if you've listened before, you know that it is my job to take away all of that stress, all of that anxiety, and all that time that it takes to plan a Disney trip, so you can focus on the really fun things like having a phenomenal time with your family and friends and enjoying the magic. And like I say, each and every week, I do all of that for free. So I take away all that stress, all that anxiety, well, as much as I possibly can. I mean, you know, I can't come over and walk your dog or cat sit for you while you're gone, but I do as much as I can. And I will plan your fast passes, your dining reservations, get you the best possible deal on your hotel resort package. I will handle all of your transportation, your special event tickets, and much, much more. And I do that all at no extra cost to you. So what you pay Disney if you booked it yourself, you also pay me. And I will be your guide. I will be in your corner. I will be the Mick to your Rocky Balboa. I will help you become a greasy, fast fighter and catch that chicken finally. Well, maybe I won't do that, but I will be in your corner. I will be your guide, and I will help you have the best possible vacation that you can have, even if you were wearing that stinky sweatshirt that Rocky wears in that scene where he catches the chicken. Remember, he puts his hand in a hole like on his chest. It's gross. Anyway, you can find this podcast, my blog, or request a free, no obligation quote over at eartotheretravel.com. All right, this is episode number 119 for the week of April 16th, 2018. Now, grab a drink, grab a snack, and as a famous mouse once said, on with the show. And we are going to start this show off just like I start off every other episode of the show, or at least I have for a while, and that is with the What About Bob segment of the show. Now, that is where you can send in your questions for Disney legend and retired Imagineer Bob Gurr. Bob will answer one question on each episode of the Ear to There podcast. To send those in, call the voice line at 267-551-1971. Or you can email me at phil@eartotheretravel.com. And Bob really needs no introduction, but I will kind of give you a little background on him. Bob built things like the Omnimover system, the monorails on both coasts, the Main Street vehicles, Walt's personal car that he drove around Disneyland in, and really many, many more. Oh, and the What About Bob segment is brought to you by the Waltland Bus Tour. So each and every month, Bob takes a busload of lucky guests all around Southern California with stops in Glendale, in Burbank, and in Los Angeles. The stops are all about the history of the Disney company and especially the history of its founder, Walt Disney. To get tickets for the Waltland Bus Tour, just head over to www.waltland.com. And I did say he needs no introduction, but I do have a theme song for him, so here we go. Here's Bob.
It's What About Bob? Bob Gurr, the legend, creator of the Matterhorn, the monorails and the Haunted Mansion. What about Bob, the Disney legend?
Is there anything in your career that you'd like to do over? Do you have any regrets?
I do not answer hypothetical questions. It's pointless. Remember, Bob Dylan said, don't look back.
Okay, thank you so much again to Bob for answering yet another question on the show. If you want to get a question into the one, the only Bob Gurr, please call the voice line. That number again is 267-551-1971. Or as I said earlier, you can always email them to me at phil@eartotheretravel.com. Okay, now it is time for episode number 119. Here we go. That's my Peter Pan impression. Here we go. This episode of the Ear to There Disney podcast is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. You may know that I was in Walt Disney World just a couple of weeks ago. All right, that's my Rod Serling horrible impression. I was just trying to be funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let me know what that did. I'm afraid that it was horrible and not funny, but if you laughed, if you smiled, it was worth it, and I'm leaving it on the podcast. So no, this episode is going to be somewhat unique because I'm going to be talking about terrible, bad, horrible things. I'm going to be talking about the bad, terrible, horrible things that can happen to you if you don't properly plan for your Walt Disney World vacation. That's what this episode is all about, because when I was walking around the parks a few weeks ago, I saw way too many people who weren't prepared, way too many guests who were walking around not without a clue, but without help, without guidance, without that Jiminy Cricket on their shoulder, without anything. They had guide maps. I helped so many guests during our few days there. I guess I still just look like a cast member when I walk around because people ask me for directions. Then I was offering, just pointing people in the right direction, trying to get guests where they wanted to go. I felt like I worked there again, and I just saw it all too often. Too many people not knowing what they were doing, and it's not their fault. People plan a trip to Walt Disney World and don't realize what goes into it these days. Listen, it's 2018, however you want to say it, and you need to be super prepared for your Walt Disney World trip, or else you were going to be one of those people that was waiting in a 180-minute queue or 180-minute line to see It's a Small World. Listen, It's a Small World is a classic. It's a fantastic attraction. I love it. My kids love it. We do it literally. We've done it countless times. I can't even tell you how many times we've ridden It's a Small World in both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. But you should never be waiting 180 minutes for that attraction, ever, ever, ever. Flight of Passage over at Animal Kingdom and Pandora World of Avatar, I get completely. Listen, it's a brand new, still, it's a year old, but it's a new attraction. The queues, the lines, they are that long. You have to wait if you don't have the Fast Pass. I get it. We're going to get more on Fast Passes just a little bit later in this episode, but I just want to help. Help me help you. As Jerry Maguire said, help me help you. I want to help you, Rod Tidwell. I want to help you get the best possible deal from the Arizona Cardinals. Were they the Phoenix Cardinals in that movie in Jerry Maguire? I don't remember. They're not anymore. They're the Arizona Cardinals now. But I want to help Rod Tidwell get the best deal. And I'm on a tangent, but I don't care. I want to help you have the most magical, the same type of vacation that I have with my family. I guarantee you my family and I have never left Walt Disney World on a down note. Well, we have, because we've had accidents. My wife, poor Amy, has fallen and broken her nose. Another time she fell and broke her shoulder. We've left. That's crazy to say that out loud. We've left with stomach bugs and flus and stuff that you really can't avoid. But sore legs from marathons. We've left with stuff like that. But we never left after having a bad experience in the parks, in the resorts, with the crowds, because I especially plan. And that's what this episode is all about. It's about the terrible things that can happen to you if you don't plan a trip. So let's get into it. And I have a list, and it's loose, to say the least. It's that's a lot of L's. There's a list up on my screen, but I'm going to record most of this from the heart because I know all this stuff like the back of my hand, and I want to help you, okay? I'm going to stop with the Rod Tidwell and Jerry Maguire stuff, but I want to help you. So the first thing that I want to touch on, and I mentioned it a little earlier, is the crowd levels. Or are the crowd levels? Either one. That's what I want to talk about first. Listen, Disney does just a phenomenal job of drawing people to the parks these days. Whether it's promotions or special events like Epcot's Flower and Garden Festival that's going on now, or the International Food and Wine Festival, or there's everything. There's the Halloween season with Mickey's Very Merry, no, that's not right. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. There's the Christmas season with Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. There are tons and tons of things to get you, to draw you to Walt Disney World now that there truly is not a dead time. I don't know if you might not be as old as me, or you may not have been going to Walt Disney World as long as I have, but there used to be dead times. There used to be times when you would go to Walt Disney World and the most you would wait is 25 minutes for an attraction. I still have clients and guests and friends emailing me saying, when are those times, right? When can we go and just walk on everything? And the answer is you cannot anymore. You simply just can't. There's too much going on. Disney's resorts, the hotels themselves, they operate right now. They're full about 92 to 93% on a given night. That's a fact. So if you don't go and fill up one of those rooms, someone else is. So the crowds are a big, big, big factor in the trips these days. And I don't want to give every tip that I have, because if I did that, then who on earth would want to book a trip through me or through one of the vacationeers on my team? That's the name we went with. I like it. I like Vacationeer. I think that's cool. Anyway, who else would want to book a trip through Ear to There Travel if they knew every single little thing? But I'm going to give you a lot on this episode. So with crowds, let's first talk about crowd calendars. For years, there are third-party companies that make these crowd calendars. They put them out. They kind of guess when the crowds will be heaviest. And I've used them actually in my business for the last couple years. But guess what? I've stopped because they aren't, I don't want to bury them because they're good people that make these calendars and they're trying to help, but they're simply not accurate anymore. Again, like I just said, the crowds are there. They're going to be there. There's going to be waits. There's going to be elbow to elbow, bottlenecks at some points, especially at Magic Kingdom and especially at Hollywood Studios, which are two parks that are kind of built for bottlenecks. So how do you avoid these crowds? How do you lessen the times that you'll be waiting for these attractions? Here's my strategy, right? And I mentioned this on my Facebook page and on the Ear to There business page and everywhere in the group, which if you aren't yet a member of the Ear to There Pod People group and you're listening to this episode, you need to become a member. Just search Facebook for Ear to There Pod People. We're right there. It's a closed group, so you have to kind of ask for permission to join, but that goes directly to me. So you're in, as long as you're not, someone who's going to come in and cause trouble, but I guess I won't find that out until you're in the group. So you're in, and then we'll find out if you're going to cause trouble. Anyway, if you haven't become a member yet of the Ear to There Pod People group, please do that. So here's my strategy for even the most crowded, most full days in a park. You want to book your fast passes. First of all, if you're staying on property, you get to book them 60 days out. If you're staying off property, you get to book them 30 days out. And if you book with an Ear to There travel agent, again, we will book those for you so you don't have to get up early in the morning and do it. But I was going to say that's neither here nor there, but that's actually a big selling point of booking through an agent. Anyway, here's how you handle the fast passes. You book the headliners, the biggest ones, the ones that you really want to do in the late morning or early afternoon. So if you want to do Avatar Flight of Passage, if you want to do Soarin', if you want to do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Toy Story Midway Mania, well, right now that one is not accepting fast pass reservations, but normally that will be on this list as well. Those are the attractions you want to reserve for around 10:30, 11, maybe 12, 12:30, something like that in the morning and early afternoon. Then, to maximize your park experience, get there when the park opens. I recommend if you want to get the most out of your day, get the most attractions in, get there at park open, or as they call it, at rope drop, even though there really isn't a technical rope that's dropping these days. Get there when the park opens and then go to the just below the headliner level attractions. So say you go to Magic Kingdom, go bang out your Haunted Mansion, Pirates, Big Thunder Mountain, Peter Pan's Flight, even though that is kind of the headliner still in Magic Kingdom to this day. But do those level attractions and then Fast Pass, but you're going to do the 60 days out. Use your Fast Passes for things like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, for Space Mountain, or for Splash Mountain. Then, after you use your third Fast Pass, jump right on the app. Literally, after your Fast Pass is scanned, and before you even get on the vehicle for that third Fast Pass, go on the app and get another Fast Pass. What I do is I look for the biggest attraction that will have the longest wait that is left on that list, and I'll get a Fast Pass for that next. So say it's Under the Sea in Magic Kingdom, or it's Meet Ariel or something like that that's left. Get a Fast Pass for that. Then just keep doing it. Roll with the Fast Passes. After you ride each new Fast Pass, do the same thing. After your band is scanned, get another one. Who cares if it's Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, which normally won't have a wait? If it's a really, really crowded day, you're going to wait 30 to 40 minutes for Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor or for Mickey's PhilharMagic. So get those. And if you don't get those, go straight to those while you're waiting for your next Fast Pass to kick in. That's the strategy. That's what works. Don't use your Fast Passes first thing in the morning. That doesn't work. Use that time, those first couple hours while everyone else is running to those headliners. Use that time to do the D-ticket level attractions. D-ticket meaning the second level. E-ticket is the top. D-ticket is the next level down. Really quickly, that comes from back in the day when you needed ticket books for Magic Kingdom and for Disneyland. An A ticket will cost you the least. B, C, D will cost you more. E was the most expensive ticket you could buy. That is why attractions like Soarin', Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and Avatar Flight of Passage are still considered the E-ticket attractions. Okay, so that's how you handle Fast Passes, right? And if you don't do that, I'm not saying you're not going to have a fun experience, but you'll be at a disadvantage. And that's going to be, that's one of the biggest tips I can give you is plan your Fast Passes like that. And then you can hit Small World in the morning when it's not a 180-minute wait, which is, again, insane in the membrane. Okay, Cypress Hill, thank you for that. The rest of my life, that'll be in my head. Remember that if you watch The Simpsons, there's a great episode when they're it's not Lollapalooza, I forget what they call it. It's like Hollapalooza. And there are acts like Smashing Pumpkins and Peter Frampton, and then there's Cypress Hill, and then there's a guy there. Kids, if you don't know who Cypress Hill is or were, they were a band, kind of a rap group in the 90s. Anyway, there's like a stage manager who comes out and he's like, did someone order the London Symphony Orchestra? Someone ordered the London Symphony Orchestra, possibly while high. Cypress Hill, I'm looking in your direction. And a guy from Cypress Hill's like, hey, yeah, we think we did. What a great show. What a great scene. Okay. So a 180-minute wait is way too long to wait for It's a Small World. All right, moving on. Here's another big one. If you don't plan out your day, if you don't plan your dining reservations, as a matter of fact, if you don't book your table service reservations before your trip, if you don't make those plans, you're most likely going to be eating counter service your entire vacation. And that could really hurt you if you have a dining plan. Now, if you have the quick service dining plan, that's fine. You don't have to plan out each and every meal because table service meals are not included in the quick service dining plan. But if you have the regular Disney dining plan or the deluxe Disney dining plan, you better make sure you have reservations. Because quite frankly, you're not getting in anywhere on day of. You will. You'll wait an hour. You might wait 2 hours. As a matter of fact, we scored, luckily, day of Be Our Guest dinner reservations. Of course, Be Our Guest is the restaurant at Magic Kingdom themed to the Beauty and the Beast. You're eating in Beast's Castle. We luckily scored those reservations day of on our last trip because, well, that's another trick we'll get to later. But I was sitting on the bridge and listening to guests coming up to the greeters outside that restaurant asking if there was any availability. And there was none, like none, not one table for dinner. And these tables book at 180 days out. Now you're like, well, I just heard you say you got a reservation day of. Yes, that is a cool trick that you can do because a lot of guests will cancel their reservations the day before or the day of. Now, remember, if you cancel the day of, Disney has the right to charge you $10 per head on that reservation that you're canceling. But that is the only way. You have to get lucky if you're going to want to eat at Be Our Guest and you don't have reservations well in advance, maybe even 6 months in advance, which is that 180-day mark. So it may sound silly. It may sound elementary. You may be a person that's going to Disney World 1,000 times and you're like, I know that I have to make dining reservations. But I'm telling you, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of guests who either haven't been there for years or have never been, if it's their first trip, they don't know. They think they have the idea that you can still just walk up and get a table. And in most cases, that will not be the case. And again, not to sell. I'm not trying to sell and tell you why you have to book through me or through my company, but we will handle all those reservations for you at 180 days or whenever you book your trip. I've gotten Be Our Guest day of. I've gotten it 3 days out. I've gotten it 20 days out. You just have to be vigilant. You have to keep looking. And that's what I'll do. That's what the other agents in the company will do. We will keep looking for you and help you. But the last thing I want you to be is that person, that poor guest that doesn't know, that is walking up to the cast members outside of Be Our Guest or outside of Art Smith's Homecoming or outside of Morimoto or Raglan Road or Coral Reef. And you're saying, I want to get a table. And they are saying, I am sorry, we're full for the evening. That's going to happen. Don't be that guest. Don't let that horrible thing happen to you. Plan your dining reservations. Listen, you don't have to know that you're getting a cheeseburger the night that you're going to, say, I don't know, the Cellier, or you're getting the filet or some other kind of steak. You don't have to know that. You just have to know that you're going to be in that park, in that restaurant that night. Because like I said, you don't want to be stuck eating at counter service restaurants every night. And I'm not trying to trash the Disney counter service restaurants by any means. I love so many of those locations. They're really good food. They've really upped their game over the last decade. But, and this is a big but, they are still counter service locations. So you're not getting waited on. You're still walking up to a register, ordering your meal, getting a tray, cafeteria style, and then going fighting for a table. You're not going to sit down, take a load off, and enjoy a nice, slower meal. So anyway, just listen. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen poor guests who didn't plan the reservations. Just plan them. Okay. Now here's one that I think everyone needs to kind of look at and have a game plan for. And that's the amount of walking that you're going to do on a trip to Walt Disney World. Now, to avoid the walking, I don't want you to look and say, okay, we're walking from this attraction to 100 feet to this attraction, 20 feet to this attraction, 15 feet. Not like that. Don't kind of plan out every second of every day. That's not fun. But have a general idea, maybe when you make your fast passes, when you plan your day, of where you're going to be at what time, so you're not zigzagging and running across the park all day. You don't want your first fast pass to be, say, 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. at Space Mountain, and then your next one is at 1 p.m. at Splash Mountain, and then your next one is at 3 p.m. at Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. You're just walking across the park over and over and over again. Don't do that. That's not fun. You're going to be tired. You're going to be cranky. You're going to be sweaty. I don't know about you, but that's not a good look for me and my family. Even though we look like kids are cute. We look presentable. I look presentable. My wife looks great when we leave the house. And then 20 minutes after walking through Magic Kingdom in the middle of the summer, we're all dripping with sweat. My kids look like they just ran a marathon. But hey, that's Walt Disney World in the summer for you. But eliminate the need to keep walking across the park. And I use Magic Kingdom because that's the one as an example. because I think that's the one most people kind of can relate to the most. That's the park they've been to the most. But think about Epcot, right? Don't get a 12 p.m. Fast Pass at Spaceship Earth and then have your next one at 1 o'clock at, say, Frozen Ever After. That's a lot of walking in between, and you're passing up on a lot of stuff from the front of the park all the way over to World Showcase. So think about it. Look at the park maps. Kind of look at how you're going to attack your day. Look where your dining reservations will be, where your Fast Passes will be. Plot out with what attractions your party, not, party like, woo. I mean, the people in your group want to plan. Look at that. Take all of that into account when planning your day, and that will really help. And listen, you might be listening to me right now and say, Phil, you're nuts. You're completely overthinking this. You're completely overplanning this. That's fine. This might not be for you, but I'm telling you, to get the most out of your Walt Disney World vacation, I'm giving you my best tips. Hey, look, this show is for free. Take it or leave it. No, I'm kidding. I really hope you take it and enjoy it. I'm kidding about the take it or leave it part, but these are my best tips to you. So, okay, moving on. Try to eliminate as much walking as possible. You're going to be walking plenty. Oh, and just to add to that, as my friend Johnny Shortsleeve would say, to kind of dovetail off of that. See that? I used one of his words. Let's talk about, for 1 second, strollers. And I've talked about these a lot on the show, and I know a lot of people don't want to bring strollers. A lot of guests say, my kid's 4, my kid's 5. They walk a lot at home. They don't need a stroller. Fine. You know your kid way better than I do. If your child can, bang out 7 miles, 8 miles in a day while walking alongside of you and not be miserable, you know your child better than me. But I've always, always, always been a proponent of either bringing strollers or renting strollers from a third party. I don't like renting strollers from Walt Disney World unless you're going to be there for 1 day only, because those strollers that you rent in the park, they're not as comfortable, to be honest, and you can't leave the park with them. So I like having them to take back to the resort or push around Disney Springs or push around the boardwalk or whatever. And to be completely honest with you, and this is me 100%, Boy Scout, I was a Boy Scout, honest. This last trip that we just got back from a couple of weeks ago, that was the first time we did not have strollers for our kids. So they are 7. We have a 7-year-old and twin 5-year-olds. This is the first time we ever did more than a few hours in a park without strollers. And they did really well. We expected them. They've been, involved in sports, and they've been, running, and we expected them to do well, and they did really well. But if your child, and you know your child best, can't hang and do 7 or 8 miles in a day, and you're planning on being in the parks all day, bring or rent a stroller. You will thank me later. And you know what? You don't even have to thank me. Just do it. All right. Let's talk. Here's another one. Money spent, right? You will be, who isn't grumpier and miserable, and, well, maybe not miserable, but who's not grumpier when they spend more money than they need to? Well, guess what? You will be a grumpy, you know what, if you don't plan ahead. The sooner you book your trip to Walt Disney World, the further out you book it, the more time, obviously, you will have to pay that off. Now, at booking, especially if you book with any Disney specialized travel agent, a $200 deposit is all that is due for each reservation. Then the balance for that reservation is due 30 days before your check-in day. You can use all of that time in between to make as many or as few payments as you'd like to pay off that Walt Disney World vacation. But here's the kind of cool thing, if you think about this, the further out you book your trip, the better price you're going to get generally. That's not a hard and fast rule. That's just kind of general. That is the general rule of thumb on booking a Disney trip. Book early and then have your travel agent, or you can call in if you book the trip yourself, to check when discounts are released to see if your reservation applies or is eligible for one of these discounts. That's a great way to save money and save a lot of frustration and anger on your trip. Another way is to plan, and think about what you are going to need on your trip. And let's talk about obvious things, but then talk about less obvious things, because you're going to spend a lot of money in the Disney gift shops if you forget these things. One thing that I've forgotten, I don't know how I do this, is sunscreen. And I think I forget it because a lot of times we'll travel with just carry-ons and no checked bags, and you can't bring a big thing of sunscreen with you in your carry-on bag or a big spray can. We like the spray ones because, well, you know what? Let me be completely honest with you. I like the spray sunscreens for myself and my kids because I don't like the feel or the touch of lotion. I'm weird. I know. I can't handle touching that stuff. Can't do it. No lotion at all. As a matter of fact, hand soaps kind of weird me out. I like a bar of soap, but I'll use the hand soaps or the hand sanitizer. Anyway, that's a crazy tangent, and I'm by myself and it's a tangent, but sunscreen. If you forget the sunscreen, listen, you can't like get to the park and not have sunscreen. You need it, and you're supposed to apply it, right, like 30 minutes before you're out in the sun. So, but if you forget it, it's not in your checked bag. I don't know why I can't remember that. If you didn't bring it in your checked bag, or even if you did bring it in your checked bag and it's at Magical Express or it's on the bus separate from you and you can't get to it and you have to purchase sunscreen in one of the Disney gift shops or the parks, it's like double the price of what you would pay not in Walt Disney World. Same as things like diapers for babies or wipes, sunglasses. I know my wife a couple of times has forgotten her sunglasses and then we have to buy them in the parks and it's, you're paying like $88 for a pair of Mickey glasses. I'm kidding. They're not $88. But they're not much less than that. I'm kidding. But listen, Disney they mark things up. We all know that. That's not a surprise. So remember everything. Look, double check. Be like Santa Claus. Make a list. Check it twice. Make sure you have everything you need. You plan everything you need, especially for that first day when you might be waiting for your bags to be delivered to your room from Disney's Magical Express. So money-wise, book early. Make a payment plan. Disney won't do that with you officially, but any good travel agent will do that for you. And remember everything you need. Remember the diapers, remember the wipes, remember the pacifiers, the formula. I know a lot of this stuff is baby or toddler driven, but listen, I'm not too far removed from that. Also, think about using, and I have no affiliation with this company. I just really like them. Think about using a grocery delivery service like gardengrocer.com. where they will deliver all of your groceries to your room. Well, they deliver them to your resort, and then you call down to the front desk when you get to your resort room, and the Bell Services will bring your groceries to your room for you. You can order anything you need, really. Stuff for your kids, snacks, toiletries, up to full meals, bread, fruit, vegetables, beer and wine, which my wife and I will always order from there because it's way more expensive in Walt Disney World. And when you order, they'll keep your cold stuff cold and your frozen stuff frozen until you call down to your room. Call down to Bell Services to get it. So again, Garden Grocer, you can find them at www.gardengrocer.com. Great tip. You don't need to use them, especially if you're using a dining plan or something, but they are a great addition to have when you're taking a trip to Walt Disney World. Now, what else is going to happen? What other bad experiences are you going to have if you don't plan your trip well? How about you're going to miss things? You're going to miss a lot if your trip isn't planned. And again, it doesn't have to be planned to the second. I don't want you to think that there's no spontaneity and there's no kind of time to go off and explore or do stuff that's not planned. But you need to have an idea of what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, so that you don't miss these things. For example, there are princess meet and greets and character meet and greets all over Epcot. Especially all over World Showcase. You can meet princesses like Jasmine, Snow White, Aurora, Belle, Mulan, and more. They're all over the place. But guess what? You can't get fast passes for these. And a lot of the times they are kind of tucked away in the back of the World Showcase pavilions. And guests who haven't planned, who haven't done their research, don't even know they're there. So the best way to do this and the best way to prepare for this before you go is to look at the times guide on the My Disney Experience app. There you can go to the individual park, look up the meet and greets, and get an idea of when each character and each princess will be meeting those days. Then, I sound like Garth from from Wayne's World. Then, and remember, he's like, it's almost too easy. I have a very wide range of nerdy 90s pop culture references. Anyway, look and kind of plan out your afternoon or your evening at World Showcase. See when those princesses will be meeting. See when you'll have time to meet Baymax or Joy and Sadness in the Epcot character spot. Check and see when you can, have time to go ride Living with the Land or journey into your imagination with Figment. Those are both fast pass-able attractions, but you don't necessarily need fast passes for them on most days. So again, you don't want to miss these little things that won't have a long wait that you can kind of get to on the fly. So look at those, look at the times, know where you need to be, and get in line a little bit early. Say Snow White is meeting in Germany in World Showcase at 1 p.m. Get there at 12:45. That way, Snow White has not come out for her meet and greet yet. The line will not be long. The cast member won't cut you off because you won't be at the end of the line where they say, this is where the line ends. Sorry, you don't get to meet Snow White this time. Trust me, if you want to avoid child meltdowns, avoid the character cutoff. I learned that the hard way where my daughters were wearing the princess that they were going to meet. They were wearing those dresses and the line got cut off. Like waiting in France to meet Aurora, and the cast member comes up to us with my daughter in her Aurora dress and says, sorry, the line cuts off 8 people ahead of you. Oh, you want to avoid that. So again, another thing, look at the My Disney Experience app, plan it. Not, like I said, not to the second, not to the minute, but have an idea of what you do not want to miss, and then make sure you make that a priority. And the last tip I'm going to give you is, this one is one that I think a lot of guests, unfortunately, don't believe and don't really follow. And that is allowing for transportation time between parks or even from resort to one park. Disney transportation is fantastic. It's free, but it is not extremely fast. Not only that, walking through parks when you get to, like, say you're going from Epcot to Magic Kingdom because you have dining reservations at Skipper Canteen at 7 p.m. You need to give yourself 2 hours travel time from leaving Epcot to getting to your 7 p.m. reservation. I know that sounds insane. I know it does. And you will probably be there way early. Like you might even be there 45 minutes early. But I promise you, it's the safest way to do it. You don't want to miss that 7 p.m. reservation, so leave Epcot at 5. And I believe in doing that for pretty much everything. So whenever you have a dining reservation or a fast pass and you're at your resort or you're at another park or you're heading to Disney Springs, make sure you allow yourself 2 hours from leaving that park to getting to that reservation. It's just a smart play. Like I said, you're going to get there early probably, but sometimes, and it's happened to me, you don't give yourself that time and you're late, especially if you're late for a fast pass. You get a little bit of a grace period. I'm not going to, tell you exactly how long. You get a few minutes after your fast pass time expires, but you don't get, an hour or 4 hours like you used to. So if you get there and your fast pass is expired, you're not riding. That's simple as that. Or you're waiting that hour plus or that 180 minutes for It's a Small World. So just do yourself a favor. Give yourself that time to travel. You'll be very, very grateful that you did. And this is my last tip. I just said my last one was the last tip, but I lied about the last tip, and this one is actually the last tip. I was trying to see how many times I could say last in like one run-on sentence. I think I broke a record. I'm calling Guinness. Anyway, I definitely had too much Coke Zero before I taped or recorded. God, am I old, this episode of the show. Okay. So, and I hate to come off as super salesy, so I'm not saying just book through me or one of, my associates, my friends here at Ear to There Travel. But if you are thinking about booking a trip, think about booking it through a reputable Disney specialized agency, whether it's my agency or another one that is, again, reputable, because believe it or not, there are some out there that aren't. So do a little research before you decide who to book through. But if you are going to book a trip, try a travel agent out. We cost you nothing. And the good agents really, really enjoy they have a blast planning your trip and answering your questions. I don't know. I love, one of my favorite things about this job is getting an email from a client after their trip and saying just how much fun they had and saying thank you. And the thank you isn't why I do it. Obviously, I love hearing how much fun they had. I love seeing the pictures of them in front of Cinderella Castle or with their favorite character, or kids seeing a castle for the first time. That's why I do it. That's why I think most Disney travel agents do this job. So just think about planning through a Disney travel agent. Again, it costs you nothing, and you'll end up saving money because they will look out, or I will look out, or one of my vacationeers will look out for you, and we'll make sure you get the best possible deal for your Walt Disney World vacation. There you go. That's the sales pitch. That's all I'm going to say about it. So hopefully you found this episode helpful. There is a lot to think about, a lot to plan. But if you follow kind of the guideline, follow the tips that I laid out on this episode, trust me, you will have a magical Walt Disney World experience. And that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Ear to There Disney Podcast. Thank you once again to Disney legend, my friend Bob Gurr, for coming back on and answering yet another listener question. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. I feel like this was an important one to get out there because when I was in the parks, like I said at the start of the show a few weeks ago, I just saw so many guests who should have been having the time of their lives and they weren't, and it just made me sad. I don't want you to be one of those guests. I want you to have just a magical time. I want you to have the vacation that I would have with my family. So hopefully this episode will kind of give you the tools and the ideas to kind of put that in place. So thank you again so much for listening. And just remember, there will be a new episode of the Ear to There Disney Podcast each and every Monday, as well as a new episode of either It's a Food World or the Word of the Week each and every Wednesday. So look out for those. Thank you so much again for listening. Have yourself just a fantastic, phenomenal, magical week. Bye-bye.